"Another story, please," they whined. They sat by the fire, a few remaining chunks of their newly found treat of strange candied fruits glimmered at the ends of hastily gathered sticks that they used to roast the snacks over the flames. The children's eyes drooped, half closed, and their heads lolled against each other's like lilies on weak stalks, finding support against their sister blooms. They had eaten so much. They drowsed and fought sleep as they turned their skewers and listened to the stories their new friend told. The old woman stooped by her horse and checked that its lead rope was firmly tied to a nearby tree. She turned to the children and frowned. "The sun is setting," she said. "I have already stayed longer than I anticipated." The boy looked at her with wide, fearful eyes. "Our parents are not back yet. Please do not leave us alone, Granny." The old woman smiled at the warm familiarity. She was not their grandmother. She found them walking along the edge of the road and had stopped to check on their welfare. They seemed well-fed and knowledgeable about the forest, but children alone in the woods will always attract attention. She looked off in the direction the children said their parents went. Her elderly eyes could not spot any footprints by the encroaching twilight. "I will keep you company a bit longer." She reached into her small cart and pulled out some dried meat and 2 bizarre whole candied fruits. The children oohed and perked up immediately. They waited patiently for her to hand them out and to sit down on a nearby rock. As she chewed a strip of dried, spiced meat, she began a tale. A kind and loving woman fell ill. Her rich husband swore to find a cure, but none of the doctors and mages he paid could help her. One night he went to the village medicine weaver. She refused to even let him in until he gave her everything of material value that he carried, and he had taken off all of his weapons. All he had left were his clothes, a lantern, and his wedding ring. Go home and say goodbye to your wife. When you leave your house, you must travel in as straight a line as you can and overcome any challenge you face on the way. Take nothing with you that you do not have with you now. If you focus only on your quest, you will find a door. If you are able to cross that threshold, I will weave the cure for what ails your wife." The next day, he traveled for a full day through the forest and over steep hills. That night, he came to the entrance of an abandoned mine. With a deep breath to steady himself, he crept in. Soon, all moonlight was swallowed by darkness, and his lamp was his only light. Water seeped from the walls and ceiling, and his clothes soon clung to him like a clammy, chilled second skin. He shivered and pressed on. He trudged through the dirt, then mud, then splashed through rivulets as he made his way deeper downward without any sign as to which tunnels to take, except to keep as straight a path as he could. He rested several times as his strength was sapped by cold and exhaustion. Finally, he fell asleep, leaning against a damp wall, and listened to the water around him plunking as drips and trickling as streams. He dreamed of watching the sunset with his wife. A gentle wind lifted her hair, which caressed his face. As the sun dropped below the horizon, her hair seemed to thicken the strands sticking to his face everywhere it touched. He reached for her, but found he could not move his arms. He opened his eyes and found himself surrounded by white, thin, gooey ribbons. No, strands of webbing. His dimmed lantern still tied to his belt, he was able to see large sacks, almost as large as his head, in a crevice below him. He had never thought of the smell of spiders, but now his nostrils were filled with a musky, sour odor. Then he heard a skittering and a chittering sound just out of his line of sight. It grew nearer and nearer and nearer, until he saw his horrified face reflected back to him from multiple obsidian orbs that glinted as if polished in his faint lamplight. He thought of his wife's sunken eyes as he forced one hand free of the gummy prison and turned up his lamp. The light flared, and the huge, hairy beast shrieked and started back. The man tipped the lamp and poured oil and flame onto the binding threads, which erupted and disintegrated. And the man fell. He awoke to freezing cold water rushing past his ears. He did not know how long he had been unconscious, but found himself lying on his back at the bottom of a cave tunnel. Soaking wet, he rose to his feet. By the embers of what was likely a large fire, he saw a hulking burned corpse and exploded eggs around him. He renewed his lamp from the embers, ate and harvested some of the meat from the beast, and searched for an exit. He found two. From one he felt a slight, hopeful breeze, but it was not directly in his path. The straightest path led downward into blackness and stillness. So that is where he went. He continued to slosh through the water for what seemed to be hours more. Then something glinted in the stream. A gold coin. Then another. Then several. Along with the splashing, he began to hear a ringing sound like beautiful chimes. He soon came to a splendid open cavern and was dazzled by mounds of precious metals and gems. A fountain of gold, silver, rubies, emeralds, all manner of jewels poured down from an opening in the ceiling of the cave. This was the source of the beautiful bell-like sounds. He waded through treasure piled high as his calves until he reached the center of the cavern and stood next to the inverted geyser of wealth. He saw a huge blue gem tumble out of the fissure above him and thought of how that single stone could purchase a larger mansion, grander carriages, more servants, more succulent and exotic, rare foods, more prestige, more power. He walked forward and reached out his hands to catch the prize, the reward for the suffering he had withstood until now. Just as he was to take the last step to position himself directly under the glistening stone, he saw his face, greedy and mean, reflected in its bright and promising facets. And he realized that his wife had not been in his thoughts at all. His mind had been blinded by the things that these coins and stones could buy. He stepped back from the fall of treasure, pulled his hands away, and let the gem fall past him. But just as it would have joined the rest of the riches heaped on the cavern floor, it evaporated into emptiness, as did all the glittering bounty around him. He found himself again in darkness, lit only by his stuttering lamplight, and he saw that he stood next to the edge of a precipice. If he had moved further to catch the promised gem, he would have stepped off the ledge and fallen into an abyss. The only jewelry his wife wore at home was her wedding ring. He looked at his own ring and was more appreciative of this small treasure. He rested for a few minutes, then continued ahead, keeping as far away from the cliff as possible. He had felt he had been traveling for days when finally his lamp ran out of fuel. He found himself in complete and oppressive darkness. He inched forward, testing each step before committing his weight and keeping a hand pressed against the rock wall. He moved on slowly. Over the hours, he rested, often from exhaustion and stress. For some time now, the walls had been dry, but his clothing was now damp from his own sweat instead of from moisture seeping from his surroundings. Also, the walls slowly became warmer as he progressed. At first, he felt relieved, and his body relaxed a bit. But the heat continued to increase, and he worried about the source. He thought that he had begun to hallucinate when he saw a faint yellow glow off to the side of the ridge that he now knew he had continued to follow. He looked over the edge and saw that a stream of lava flowed out from the earth in the distance below. He no longer needed to press the wall for direction, but he was so weak and overcome by the rising heat that he continued to keep a hand there to keep him upright as he progressed. As he continued forward, the wall he touched lost its dull and rough feel and became smoother and ridged like a textured metal wall. Finally, he sat down and closed his eyes to rest. He hoped that he would awaken, but was not sure that he would. Awaken he did, as the wall that he had propped himself against undulated and twisted against his back. As he opened his eyes and looked about, he realized he had napped against the bulk of a sleeping dragon. It had just awoken and sleepily moved its head to position its snout over the ledge. Its nostrils flared as different minerals ignited below in the molten rock and wafted various fumes up into them. The slit of a drowsing, wide yellow eye, almost as tall and wide as his torso, opened, but did not focus on him. To keep to a straight path, he would have to continue past this creature. He did not know what to do. He took a mental inventory of his possessions: an empty lamp, tattered clothing, a wedding ring, and a few chunks of spider meat. The ring was his only treasure, but it meant nothing without his wife. The lamp was useless without oil. The heat of the cavern made wearing clothes uncomfortable, and they were almost rags anyway. The spider meat had given him a bit of strength, but would do nothing to help if he could not progress. He slowly and quietly gathered everything he had with him and crouched, naked, in the crook between the dragon's leg and belly. With a silent hope, he heaved the entire bundle over the side. He heard a tiny hiss as the wad of cloth, metal, and meat vaporized. After a moment, he saw the golden eye open and focus downward. Strange, it growled. Then, quick as a snake, it slid its entire body over the ledge and disappeared into the magma. The man wasted no time and sprinted, bare and quick as a child who had escaped a parent's grasp at bath time, as far forward and away as he could. But he did not have to go far. He turned back to check where the dragon was, and when he turned back, the stone beneath his feet transitioned into the wooden planks of a walkway. The ridgeline ended in a brick wall before him. Within that wall was a door with a round, decorative plaque. He fell to his knees in joy and relief and crawled forward as fatigue began to overtake him. He reached the doorknob and twisted at it with both hands, but it would not turn. "What do you want?" he shouted. "I cannot fail." At those words, the plaque glimmered, melted, and transformed into a mirror. He saw his own face, haggard and desperate in the reflection. As he stared at himself, he realized that he was focused on his own sense of failure, not on what that failure meant. The face in the mirror became serene with resolve as he understood what he must do. He could not go straight through the door. He could not go back. And he could not go through the cave wall. He turned toward the ridge, walked to the edge, and stepped forward. His foot did not find air. Instead, he stepped upon a soft, rubbery material. He looked down and saw that a tentacle wider than his body extended from a gap in the brick wall and prevented him from falling. He stepped back onto solid ground and again approached the door. Another tentacle slipped from another opening in the wall. It held a glinting key in its muscular grasp. He carefully took the offered key, placed it in the door lock, and turned it. The door opened to a bright, familiar room. The medicine weaver stood over a cauldron that bubbled at the center of her simple home. She nodded at him approvingly. "Close the door. I have work to do now. And put on some clothes." The moon was rising as the old woman finished the story. A howl came from the woods around them. The children giggled at the last line of the tale, but their voices were now gravelly and low. "A nice tale, Granny," said the boy. "We had fun. The fruits were a tasty snack, but now it is time for dinner." Another howl came from the other side of the camp. Granny smiled widely, too widely, and both the children stopped giggling. "Well, you two are not worth the effort that I put in," the old woman said. "Those fruits were hard to come by." She called into the woods. "Take a good sniff of me now, beasties. Decide if it's best to try to make a meal of me, or to pick up your cubs and move on. After a tense pause, two large, hairy creatures, half human and half something else, approached the campsite from opposite sides. One of them positioned itself between the old woman and the children, as the second took their hands and led them away. The children protested, but their minder growled at them. "Thank her for her time and let us go." Both children, now covered in hair, called back to her through wide mouths with large, sharp teeth. "Thank you, Granny." The boy added, "It was a very good story." "You have my scent, children," the old woman said as the other large beast backed away. It kept its eyes on her until it entered the tree line. "Find me if you want more snacks or stories. I am always looking for new helpers."